Thank you. So let's assume I have. Let's in your mind assume they have a full house.
Okay.
Okay, how many of you are from a startup? Good, so you'll make it useful for them. So what the panel is going to be interesting. We have global people who are running global accelerators. Amir is from Israel. You have Miten, he's from Bay Area. Rekha, she is from Dubai. We have Ajeya and Abhishek, they are in India. Ajeya runs a corporate accelerator and Abhishek runs an independent accelerator. So we have a very good set of speakers here. And what we're going to talk about is what are different models of accelerators and incubators, right? What are the differentiation, uniqueness of different models? Touch upon some of the challenges in an accelerator model. Start with that. Then go through and understand how should a startup make a decision on which accelerator should they select. Once they select an accelerator, how can they take advantage of all the different benefits they get from an accelerator? So those are some of the areas we want to focus on. We'll dive directly into this. Maybe each of you can spend 1 or 2 minutes, talk why the audience should listen to you.
Okay.
That's the challenge for your 1 or 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for it. Does it work? Okay. So I do not run an accelerator. I run a venture capital
disqualified.
fund. Yeah, I disqualified. Maybe I'll go. So I run a venture capital fund, early revenues venture capital fund over the last 16 years. We are investing in deep technology companies in the areas of semiconductors, machine vision, virtualization of software for CPU and storage, and we have even one clean tech company. So we are not we are domain agnostic, but we are looking for companies that will have a very as easy as possible market penetration, and we believe that when the competition is low, then the market penetration is much easier, and the company can compete on the market when the competition is coming later on in its life cycle. I've been on many boards of incubators and accelerator. I'll explain later maybe the difference between them.
Sure.
And I've been working with companies that came out of incubators and accelerator and invested in some of them. So I'll be happy to participate on the panel.
Great.
Good afternoon. My name is Mehta. I represent Spinta Global Accelerator. We are a cross-border accelerator with headquarters in Fremont, Bay Area, and presence in Washington, D.C., Singapore, Bangkok, and Bangalore here through NASSCOM, though we don't run a cohort here. And our specialization is in health tech, fintech, and deep tech. So if you're looking for cross-border expertise where, let's say you have a product idea in India, you want to design in Singapore, you want to build in Bangkok, you want to raise money in Silicon Valley, and you want to go out and go to market in New York or DC.
Can a startup do all of this?
Well, actually, what we are trying to do here is, and I'm just using this as an example, everybody using this, we all know this comes from 700 different locations, gets assembled at Foxconn in China. But a similar kind of an efficient supply chain doesn't exist for software or applications today. We are trying to build that.
What's your background?
So this is my first startup. I went to Bay Area back in early 90s, started working with Qualcomm. Mid-90s, I did my first startup. That was acquired by InfoSpace. And then I did a startup in London. This is my fifth one, as I said, and so far seems like we are, having a sticky value proposition, not here in India based on the audience that I see, but at least in Bay Area.
So you are a startup, you're asking other startups to trust you.
That's true.
You have 1 hour to make it happen.
We are 18-month-old startup, you're right, Parry.
Okay, all right. Rekha?
Hi, is it working? Yeah. Hi, so my name is Rekha, and I'm from Dubai Internet City essentially. And so historically, Dubai Internet City is a 17-year-old organization. It is the free zone where we have the MNCs and SMEs and SMBs. So recently there has been a focus on the startups and entrepreneurs, and that's how the In5 was born. So what we do at In5 is give 5 benefits to the startups, and that's how the name is In5. In stands for innovation, In stands for the incentives the startups get, the incorporation, and 5 are the benefits, and these benefits are giving the startups a legal framework to start working from Dubai, and legal framework means giving them the license, giving them the visas, and giving them the co-working space. And the other things are more or less like a best practice that comes from Silicon Valley or any of these Middle East places where the startup culture really started many years back. Maybe we were a little bit late in start of that. And so these are mentorship, coaching, training, access to the network. So in a nutshell, this is what we provide to these startups. I wouldn't call ourselves an accelerator or an incubator, because accelerator and incubator have a start date and an end date. For us, we do have a start date after the filtration and when the startup is selected in our program, but end date is not what we work on. It is the startup who decides where do they go from where they start. So they are with us, they nurture their idea, they get ready to go to market, and then they become part of the mainstream of companies, which is what Dubai Internet City is. And we started off as a tech startup, but now with the interest coming from the startups, we have also we're focusing on the media startups and the design startups. So each of these startups get the different benefits from the purpose of what do they need. As a media startup, you need a different set of facilities. This is what is provided, and maybe I can cover those aspects in the next round.
Sure. Thanks, Rekha.
Thanks, Rekha. Okay, my name is Ajeya Motaganahalli. I head a startup accelerator called NetApp Accelerator. It's a corporate accelerator. We are focused on helping any startups that can make use of our data expertise. NetApp is a data visionary in the areas of data management, hybrid cloud, storage. And any startup that wants to make use of these abilities are more than welcome. We provide a host of benefits to the startups, and the idea of actually enriching and innovating ecosystem all around us. That's the idea of actually having this accelerator. We don't take any stake in the startups, but we actually give them a lot of mentorship, access to markets, also access to investors and stuff like that, with the idea that we have an ecosystem around us that's innovating, and at some point we will be able to kind of leverage each other, take advantage of go-to-market opportunities, partnership opportunities, and things of that nature. So again, this is like a no strings attached accelerator, and for example, this time we had 250 startups apply for us, and we selected 6. So it's an opportunity-based accelerator. It's definitely not a startup spectacle. It's a very, very focused, data-oriented innovation sandbox, if you will. Thanks.
Thanks, Ajeya.
No strings attached. The breakup should be easy. Cool. So I'm Abhishek. I head TLabs. TLabs is a 6-year-old accelerator. So far invested in 57 companies. Most of the companies doing very well. We are part of. So we are sponsored by a corporate, which is called Times Internet Limited, which is part of Times Group, a media company. We don't call ourselves corporate accelerator because we have been fairly independent, working with our parent group. And the reason that we can kind of help startups, and especially consumer startups, is that Times Internet, through all its property, reaches out to almost 250 million monthly active users. So this accelerator was formed 6 years back on this belief that most of the startups actually don't need help. They need direction. We are like, if you would say, a navigation map. You remember that when you're driving, the lady in the app always tells you to take right, but you may not agree with it, but you do take right. We are those kind of accelerator where we tell the startups to take right. They may not agree with us. Sometimes they do take right and reach their destination. Sometimes they just get in a traffic jam. So we're just kind of helping them from a 10,000 feet overview where we know where the traffic jams are.
So are you Google Maps or Waze?
Well, we're just maps.
Yeah, maps, okay. Okay, great. Thanks for all of you for your introduction. The current perception is there are more accelerators than Kirana shops in Bangalore. Right? Kirana shops are mom and pop shops. So, and is it the right model? So why is this perception, what are the challenges of this model? Why do people think, hey, everybody is starting an accelerator? What are the benefits I will get from it? So what are the challenges? Let's start with that. Yeah, Abhishek. So you are the oldest in this, so the number of stuff.
Yeah, and I'll keep. He looks old too. Anyway, I'll let that comment pass. If women had said that, I would have really minded that. Anyway, so I'll keep using that map. I'm the most fittest in the group, by the way. I'll keep using that maps analogy. But to answer your question, and a lot of people through this journey of 6 years, a lot of people have approached me wanting to know how to run an accelerator. As I was talking to you, we have been the most successful one, at least in India. And everybody comes with that mindset, and what they see as a facade is a program that runs you, get a bunch of mentors, create a program where you're talking about product design, product market fit, how to go to market, how to price your solution, and that's it. That's what people see when they see an accelerator from the outset. And they just, without thinking, start the programs. But if you've run an accelerator, and most of the people would agree that it's an expensive job to run an accelerator. You can't run with a very small, getting just together 10 lakhs, 50 lakhs, or even a crore of rupees and expect that then there will be an outcome, right? It's a long gestation period. We understand. So
a lot of people don't understand how expensive it is to run an effective accelerator.
And you will not make money in the first 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. You will end up making money maybe at the end of 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. Right?
Sure.
Think of a VC fund. VC fund invests for the first 4 years and then gets its exit in the next 8 years. They have a +2 just in case there are no exits, right? For an accelerator, this is even longer, right? Okay. Most of the people don't understand that and jump into it.
Okay.
The other problem is, what we have seen is that they hire an operations manager to run an accelerator, which is, telling you somebody, so I'll use that analogy again. As I was saying, we don't help any entrepreneur to drive. We just tell them where to go, right? Now what you're saying is a person who doesn't know driving gets in their driving seat and telling, oh, you are doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. The entrepreneur knows better than you. Your ops manager cannot help. A person who has run a startup.
And the entrepreneur has to gain his own wisdom, right? So
you have to do your own mistakes and gain your own wisdom, right? Yeah. If you keep doing that, the company will not go anywhere. If you have people who have run accelerators, run startups, if you have people who have failed startups or succeeded startups, those are the right kind of people to help. Okay. So if the founders have that background, I would say they should start an accelerator. If the founders don't have that background, they want to start. So
that's the second part. So in terms of the talent which is running that. Yeah. Okay, great. So Ajeya, from your perspective, and we can get into how you see it globally. And you have recently an accelerator. You would have looked at all the different models. Yeah. What came out as big things which is not working in other accelerators, which you said, hey, when we run it, we're going to fix those?
Yeah, I think to start with, the focus, like what Abhishek just spoke about, right? So it's kind of different, right? So here we are not starting about the accelerator to make profits, or we are not looking at it as business. So this is not.
The motivation is
different. So once you don't look at it as a business venture, your motivation to run it is completely different, and the goals that you have.
More dangerous.
No, I mean, the goals are not for the accelerator. If you look at our accelerator, right, we don't have goals for NetApp.
Yeah.
Our goals are the startup's goals, right? Yeah. So, for example, we've hired the best of coaches from Silicon Valley.
So, you're not looking at the accelerator as a P&L, right?
Exactly. It's not a P&L for us, right? So, we have a longer roadmap, right? So, we have a vision. We have a longer roadmap.
Yeah.
And as Abhishek said, right, to run the accelerator, for example, we have hired some of the best coaches from Silicon Valley who have built companies, who have been running a venture toolkit, kind of big accelerators for many years, and incubators who have a track record. So they are coming here and they are actually coaching up the companies. And the goals of the startups is something that we evolved over a boot camp that we did over a couple of weeks in kind of understanding where you want to reach by when.
So for each of the company, you are able to customize what the
exactly.
needs are.
Every company has a separate goal. We have a
Okay.
company that is in autonomous vehicles. They have a separate goals. We have
Okay.
a company that deals with digital health. They have a separate set of goals.
Got it.
We have a company that's in IT automation and infrastructure.
So you customized
HCI.
it for, okay.
Completely different goal,
Okay.
right? And we're kind of tracking that. So we don't have that pressure to generate any profits. So
Okay.
we're looking at this in terms of these are like adjacent areas where NetApp is not invested in innovating.
So which part of the organization does your accelerator fit in? Because if you're a part of a sales organization, they're driven by revenue. Where are you, which part of the organization are you part?
So yes, you're right. So a couple of things. The R&D organization is invested into it by providing mentorship.
Okay.
Right. So we have like deep technical mentors that have come out of our R&D organization and who are spending time with the accelerators to help them figure out certain things. Like if you look at all the companies these days, they are into the SaaS delivery models. They are into trying to organize their data into cloud for efficient delivery and stuff like that. Here's where our technical mentors can help them fine-tune some of those because we are the experts there, right?
Okay.
Our sales organization is invested in terms of trying to see how you can leverage opportunities to go to market with them by making them alliance
Is it
partners.
India or global?
It's the India sales is invested, but the horizon is global.
Okay,
So
okay.
we have companies who have with us who have no customers in India. They have customers only in the United States.
Okay, so your global sales is can enable them potentially.
Well, right now the India sales is engaged for
Okay.
opportunities, but
Okay.
of course we have one sales group, so
Okay.
it's across the border.
Okay, so these are some of the challenges you found, and so for you to customize it.
The challenge was to understand what the goals was, right?
Okay.
So then we kind of decided there is no goal for NetApp as a company, but the goal
So
is.
what is the goal for, what the North Star for NetApp as a company for driving that? So maybe it is an investment for the company.
Yeah, it is definitely an investment, right? But at the same time, if you look at it, one of the startups among the 6 is already our alliance partner. So
Okay.
we are doing joint go-to-market with them.
Got it.
So that's a great opportunity for both of us.
Okay, okay.
Right,
So
so-
there's another model of forming partnerships. is that what you're
Absolutely,
saying? Okay.
absolutely, right? So yeah.
Great. Thanks, Ajeya. Anybody else want to? We don't have to go through the order as well, yeah. Go.
Sure. So I don't think there's anything wrong, first of all, with Kirana shops.
Okay.
I'll give you an analogy.
Oh, no, I'm not saying anything
Okay,
wrong with
no,
that.
I just want to defend accelerators over here. When I came in early 90s in this, I was in this country, I ran into auto rickshawalas in Hyderabad and Bangalore who would tell me which SAP class to go, which Oracle class to go, which Java class. Believe me, a lot of those guys are today in US making 200,000 plus in some very good jobs. Some of them have come back and done startups. Every country has its own evolution. In US,
So you're saying every accelerator has some value to provide?
you bet.
Okay.
And accelerators go through. So, the approach should be, same thing happened with the STD-PCO. I'm sure all of you know, there was a STD-PCO, there was an internet kiosk.
Yeah.
Then there was, of course, a startup boom. And
But then we want to hear from you about Silicon Valley.
so I
tell
want
us a little bit about-
I want to come to that the evolution in Silicon Valley hasn't been any different, where we have accelerators across, and we still have, and they have all evolved. And our philosophy has always been in Valley that let 1,000 flowers bloom. So if I have an accelerator coming next door to me in Fremont, we would be the first one to go out and join hands and give them flowers and say, welcome on board. By the way, how can we partner? That would be the second question, because we would say, we are in health tech and deep tech, what do you do? And they'll say they provide so-and-so service. That's exactly how an ecosystem gets built. You will find a Kirana shop next to a Kirana shop, next to a jeweler shop, next to a jeweler shop. So I
we
want to
should
use
create
that.
more accelerators.
You
in
bet.
India. Okay.
So as I said, let 1,000 flower bloom. Plus, compare the number of accelerators to the gentleman here next door, Israel. I think it's a country which is the size of a state. They have more accelerators than us. So I think India needs more than less. Coming to the challenges, I think the single most challenge that we have found, at least, is I think very much evident over here. You have a funding event going on next door, which has 5 times the audience of this. So I think in India, everybody is on money, which is a good thing. Which is a good thing, whether you're getting funded or not. I think but I think where the challenge for us is, that the mindset is that funding is an event and not a process. Whereas, I think, and it's part of evolution. I think eventually entrepreneurs will realize there's a huge value in being part of the process, whether you're part of a cohort, part of a batch, in an accelerator, and then funding will happen. If you're good, it will happen. But I think that is the single most challenge that we face here in India, which is why we actually don't run a cohort here, and we're in Bangalore, because we ourselves are learning how to serve Indian market differently, because Silicon Valley cookie cutting approach doesn't really apply here. If we talk about technology, we talk about development, we talk about mentoring, everybody feels that that's all given, So that's, and for us, the opportunity, besides challenges, to build truly ecosystem. Because I don't think there is a better, faster, cheaper way to build an ecosystem, no matter what business you are in. And I'm happy to take that as an offline challenge.
Talk a little bit about your model, right? You looked at this challenge and you created some model which is very interesting for people who are still in work.
Correct.
Can you explain a little bit about that?
So for example, I think as we're discussing offline, we focus as ourselves as an accelerator for the rest of us. When I say rest of us, I mean people who may not be actually a hardcore coder today. So in Valley, as I was sharing, that entrepreneurship and startups are highly skewed. Funding is highly skewed towards founders who are coders. Now what happens in people like me, let's say who's in their late 40s, I've been a coder, I've been masters in computer science, but I don't do code today, for instance. And obviously I have as I joked, an expensive house, expensive wife, and expensive kids in college. Now, how do I go out, get off that treadmill?
Is the accelerator going to fund all of this?
No. So the point I'm trying to make is that the accelerator is going to come and help me build the idea into an MVP until the MVP is funded. So where we come into the picture is we are saying, don't leave your job now. Most accelerators will tell you, unless you're not full-time, we can't fund you. Now, when you're saying you're going to be full-time, which means you're losing at least $250,000 directly in revenue, and if you 2 years down the line, if you fail, which 9 out of 10 startups do fail, you try to get the same job, you're not going to get the same job, at least in Valley, maybe in Bangalore too. And if you're going to get the same job, you're going to probably not get the same salary. So how do we mitigate that risk for all other entrepreneurs and really democratize this in Valley? And so you don't have to be, 23-year-old college kid who lives on soda. And
are you going to do this in India as well? Or are you
no, we are not. So we're redefining the model. But here in Valley, that's what we're doing. We're helping them go out, build from their idea into an MVP, get them funded through our investor day pitch, and then post that, we obviously expect once you're funded to go out and come on board full time.
Okay. So your model is to enable people who are working in large companies and not take risk and drive that.
Correct. Because at the end of the day, sorry for 1 minute, startup is all about what business problem you're solving. Now, I don't find this very attractive that a tech guy is going to tell an insurance guy with 15 years experience what business problem he's solving in insurance or banking or healthcare or dental. We feel the domain expertise that the people, no matter whether you know tech or not, they bring, because they know the problem, they are living that problem every day. And the tech is just an enabler. I think Silicon Valley has just glamorized and sexified the whole tech part so much that everybody else feels like we're dumb, really. And those are the guys who are going to make
money.
So
how many of you here actually code?
A lot of them.
Okay. So there's a lot of people can apply.
Absolutely, and I think they would do a wonderful job being co-founder or CTO, pairing up with the domain guys, because we often find in pitches, even I was next door.
Thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a question, Miten. How do you ensure that people have their skin in the game? They may come to you, they may get something developed, but if they don't see anything, they will just go back to their job. They are already in their job. There is, for example, we never take anybody. We have to be 100% behind it, right? Because entrepreneurship is also about risk, and you have to take that risk if you're jumping in. If there is no risk, if the first, toughness, first hard problem that you face, you're going to run away.
Yeah, so risk is also about timing, as you would agree. Whether it is markets or whether entrepreneurship, the way we go out and mitigate our risk, working with entrepreneurs who are coming on board, is we make sure that they do have a startup, they do have an idea, when they do have a company, they do have an idea, and they are giving equity as a part of that. And as a part of the agreement, they are willing to go out and commit about X number of hours by the entrepreneur invested into those companies. So this is how we go out. And
very, very risky model.
No, I agree with your model, because risk is one aspect of entrepreneurship, but
so Pari, is there a model that's less risky? I mean, any model other than the one this guy has is very risky.
No, that's a valid point. The question is, if you look at entrepreneurs are setting up second companies, right?
You look at from the perspective of you are putting your time, you're putting your money in the game, right? And you're trying to create a business out of it, which Miten is. Then it becomes very risky to kind of fund people who don't have a skin in the game, and are basically, for a lack of a better word, armchair entrepreneurs who have an idea and they want to get that idea built, but they would just run away the moment they see trouble.
So Abhishek, you are not a 45-year-old working in a large company. You talk to them, the level of frustration they have is you can trust them.
Funding, post-funding, they are expected to come on board full-time, but while they are working on their
right.
If you've been an entrepreneur, which I've done 5 startups, I can tell you there's a vast difference between building an MVP and then scaling the company post.
So let's agree both model will work. Okay.
No,
Amir, you had something to say.
There's just one last point is that I was actually talking to Idea Springs, and they were like, hey, you got all great startups, but I would also like to see if there is an opportunity for employees of NetApp to actually being a part of that incubator, because they come with a pedigree, and then we would like to see what they would do.
Yeah.
So I think what he has caters to that, because there are some VCs who really want to get that kind of pedigree from people to actually go
Who have deep domain
capabilities and do that. I think that's something that you do. So that's
I think that taking everything that was saying
doesn't it sound like this panel is happening in Tel Aviv?
I think that it is very similar because in the US, in Silicon Valley or here, you have many accelerators. Same as in Israel. Maybe per capita in Israel, the number is much more. But still, if you're an entrepreneur,
is there more accelerator than startups? Not yet.
No.
Okay.
I think that you have to choose between, doesn't matter if you are here or in Israel or in the Silicon Valley, you can choose from hundreds of startups, accelerators. Hundreds of accelerators. And the most important recommendation I can make to you is to make sure that the expectations of the entrepreneur and the accelerator fits and match. And because some accelerators, they provide you the technology side, and some accelerators that actually run by universities in Israel provide the first-time entrepreneur the knowledge of, what is MVP, or what is lean startup, or what is go-to-market, or how to build a financial plan with milestones and, and all of that. Because some engineers don't know how to approach it at all, and maybe they will have the best product, but it will not get anywhere. And some other, more advanced entrepreneurs can go to corporations that will take them, on the direction of the corporation. But there are risks of working with a multinational corporation. And there are other accelerators that run by VCs. And if you graduate from an accelerator that run by VC and you do not get an investment from the VC, then you are doomed. You will not get an investment from anyone. So you need to think very carefully of which accelerator fits you. And there are accelerators that take early stage companies and try to help them to get off. But there are accelerators that actually run by large multinational corporations in Israel that take only advanced startups that already have a product, and they help integrate the product into their solution.
So there are lots of different kinds of accelerators.
So the diversification of accelerators is huge, and each one looks differently, act differently. Some of them take equity, some of them don't take equity, some of them invest money or do not invest money. Some of them, in Israel you have the incubators. The incubators are financed by the government. You have hundreds of accelerators, but you have only 18 incubators in Israel. And in an incubator, you get $500,000 from the government for a period of 2 years, and it is very clear what you have to do during the period in the incubator. In the accelerator, sometimes it's only 3 months, sometimes it's 6 months, but after 6 months, you are on your own, and you have to fly, and it's very difficult.
Okay. Great. Rekha, about Dubai, how is the ecosystem for accelerators? And for startups, do you expect global startups to come in, or what are the unique advantages they get by being part of your, you said it's not an accelerator or incubator, it's an innovation center.
That's true. Yeah, so at Dubai, we don't have too many accelerators, so it's not that, you're spoiled for the choice. So if people do come to us and ask us, how are you different or better than, anyone else, we really give them a very fair and honest reply is that go and do the scouting for yourself. What I can do is what I offer, and I can also share the knowledge as to what others offer. But then at the same time, we just let them really take a decision. So from our perspective, why would say that Dubai or In5 is a better place? We'd always ask these startups to check what's your market. So if their market is not Dubai, or for that matter, if they don't want to go from Dubai to maybe some of the countries, which is we consider Dubai to be in a very unique location. So geographically, you can reach out to Mensa market in about 4 to 6 hours, and US can be as far as only 12 hours. hours. So we are at a very unique location, and so people have to say that, okay, I have kind of done my homework and I want to be now in Dubai because I'm scouting for, the market outside Dubai or within Dubai, then we say, yeah, Dubai is a great place. But if your market is India, or, for that matter, any city in India, I think they should be here. Why should they even come to Dubai? Dubai is a nice place to be. You have a great infrastructure, you have a great healthcare and great maybe education system. You can really have a great social life. But apart from that, you have to run your business at the end of the day, and it is expensive to run a full-fledged business with every person in your team sitting in Dubai. It can be an expensive affair. So literally, you have to do your own homework to see which market fits for you better, or which is the market that you are addressing.
Okay, thanks. We will open up questions from the audience. Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. This background from Rastra.com. I think I'll ask something which is very specific to us since we are both here. See, we are startups about 1 customer sold, have achieved some traction, have a million plus monthly visitors coming in. We have medical and health information. We have some data around patients, long-term consulting. So this is where we are right now. Okay? What we're trying to understand is this the time where an accelerator, like a global accelerator, will come into place, or it's some more? Global accelerator we can engage on, or is this a stage where we should go to VC? See, basically, what any startup here, any founders who are out here would associate, this is a stage where we want to scale up. So basically, what we require funds, we require networking, and we require mentorship, right? And as I think Abhishek mentioned, we are living it. Right? We are building it, we are living it. So we understand the domain, we understand the technology. What is your advice? Where do we engage in this? And so someone mentioned that most people are out there, so we came here. So we want to know.
Ajeya, you want to start, or?
Yeah.
Mics.
I think that goes to the. So you're saying that you've kind of mostly kind of sorted off things like the product market fit, and you kind of pretty, to some extent, right? So I think you are not an early stage at this point, right? So you're past that stage, right? So I would actually say that what would be good for you is to figure out your adjacencies and where you can get the maximum value for your buck. And for that reason, a corporate accelerator may be a good fit for you, where you can find who would be the person who can give me maximum exposure to the markets at this point. So I think at this point it becomes access to markets, access to investors, because you have figured out your product market fit. It's about accelerating from this point, right? So for example, we have a similar startup in our cohort as well, right? And they are into digital health. They're not exactly into what you're doing, but they're into digital health. And they knew their market fit, but they wanted more in terms of go-to-market capabilities, where, for example, we had our coaches go with them to their customers to kind of, in a way, translate some of the requirements to them in a better way, in the sense, hey, this is what you want to do. So you don't want to really actually go and reach out to the end customer who are the patients, but you want to actually go and see the doctors and enroll them as your customers, and through them you should be able to reach your customers, kind of a thing. So you could basically try to reach out to, in your area, if there are accelerators that are helping you. I would say that would be a good way to start. But if you have more than that sorted out, I think you could go to any accelerator. But I'm saying it depends on where you need help, Vikram.
So we have an intersection of content and telemedicine and data.
So, Amir, you can maybe add on to what Ajeya mentioned.
Yeah.
From an, you work with 20 plus. You can give an objective view. Where should they go to?
Right. I think that you need to identify what is the critical path for you to go to the market, and then see, who are the accelerators, who are the people actually that stand behind the accelerator, and who can help you most with mentoring, introductions, networking, everything you just mentioned in this market. So, for example, in Israel, I don't know here, but in Israel you have some accelerators that are owned by multinational corporations in the area of digital health. So this is your market, and they are looking for new technologies to go to this market for innovation. And if this is really an innovative product, then they will be happy to bring you into the accelerator. The other way around is to go through somebody that actually provide a tool, like NetApp, like Microsoft, like, other accelerators that are using tools in order to get to the same market. They also try to get to the e-health market. So it depends, where you get most advice.
Abhishek, your pitch?
Yeah, just just to amplify Amir's thought, you have to right now introspect and be honest to yourself of what you need, right? Divide it into 3 parts. Whether it's the product help that you need, whether it's customer access help that you need, which is part of also networking, or whether it's capital that you need, right? And then if, obviously if you need all 3, hard to find, you would have to go to VCs and accelerators that fund. But if it's customer access, corporate programs are very good programs where they would give you the customer access. Microsoft runs that program, NetApp runs that program. If you need capital, I think you should start pitching to VCs and angel networks also. They can provide the network as well. So just introspect right now and you'll find your answer.
In startup, I think most people don't identify this. In a startup, it's never one. It's all the 3, right, that we have to run in. I mean, it's never that I can sit down and say, I want only product access, but I don't have capital to go to the product. Okay? Or I want customer access. So that's the challenge that we face. And see, since it's a global accelerator, the reason we came here, since it's an India specific, we are building out. And of course, we are starting to expand in Middle East and Africa and looking at Southeast Asia. Because being digital gives us that access and having doctors more helps. Right? So these 3 are typically moving problems, right? I mean, at any point we face this. So that's why we want to understand. And since you have been handling accelerators, and I think you mentioned that you do global, and then you're from Israel, which is the hotbed of startups, right? I mean, that's how we identify. And Abhishek comes from media content. We do some media and content around that area. And Ajeya, I know him also personally, right? I mean, we have worked, right, in product. Yep. So this is a problem I think most people out here will face if they are coming from startups. And see, people are going there and pitching, and of course some funding comes in. But funding alone is not the journey. Right? Funding is not a milestone. It's just the beginning of a milestone. So we till you take the funding and go somewhere. But
we can take that offline. Let's have some more questions from the audience.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So from the corporate side, I did innovations at one of the e-commerce companies. From the corporate side.
Yeah, it's audible, yeah.
So when should a company, I mean, I know many of the corporates have a program of an accelerator. So when should a corporate actually look at doing it, and what are the factors that should be considered while setting it? I'm not well to decide to go ahead and have an accelerator of corporate accelerator kind of thing,
Yeah, go ahead, Ajeya.
Okay. So I'll let Abhishek go next because I think he'll try to dissuade you from this. But, so it's a conscious decision in the sense of what is your horizon for innovation and what's your bandwidth for innovation, right? So do you have a need to actually foster innovation in your adjacent areas, right? The idea of having an accelerator is basically to get that in, right? So, for example, if you want to quote our example, like we were a startup once. NetApp was like a startup once. We still act like a big startup today, right? And our idea was to see that, hey, so we have traversed this journey from being a startup to becoming a big enterprise company, right? And we would like to give back to the ecosystem in a way that we would like to help startups traverse that journey faster, right? So we would like to give mentorship and things like that. So that was one of the ideas. The other idea was also about, hey, so we are in the data space, and there is this thing about data being the new oil, right? And basically there is a lot of innovation happening around that, happening around hybrid cloud, any other things that are around deep learning, AI, ML, everything is data intensive. So there's a lot of things happening, but we cannot go and build applications in all these spaces around. So can we actually get a bunch of companies that are working in these areas and help them become successful? So you will have to think whether you have that need or you have enough fuel in your own tank to fuel your own innovation. And if you have some goals to achieve on your own, or if you have the bandwidth to kind of focus on multiple things. So it's definitely a decision based on that.
Abhishek, you had some point.
Yeah. To most corporates, I would want to say one thing, and this is because I feel for early stage startups and that they should be guided properly, is don't kill startups. If you start a corporate program And if you take early stage startups, you will more often than not end up killing them. The reason and the way to avoid is that, if you're starting to think about synergy with the startups, most of the startups at early stage are not designed to fit into a corporate or even work with a corporate. A corporate takes a lot of time to even work with. And just answer yourself, how much time does it take for you to register a vendor? Probably 3 months. In some cases, I've seen 6 months or 7 months. That time would actually kill a startup which has no funds, is kind of trying to do a product market fit, build a product. The program that runs successfully in most corporates is, customer access program for probably a seed funded startup or a Series A funded startup. If you're doing that, I would still agree that you will end up helping the startup, right? The second, the reason I say that is most of the time, the CEO says, hey, everybody is running an accelerator. We have to have an innovation program. Why don't we just go ahead and create an innovation program? And the guy who's given that mandate runs and creates an innovation program, gets a bunch of startups. He has no idea of what to do with the startups. Most of the business heads have their own P&L. They're not interested in funding startups or even working with startups. So now it becomes a barrage of people who are fighting to do their own job. But nobody is thinking about how do I integrate startup? Is the business head on board?
Well, that's the normal day of in a corporate.
Yes.
There's nothing to do with startup.
No,
engagement.
it has a lot to do with startups. Believe me, in the first thing when I joined a corporate and when the task was given to me to create an innovation program, I went to each business head who had P&Ls and I said, what do you want to do with startups? And they had no clue. They were like dogs who were chasing a car. They had no clue when they catch
it. Abhishek, I think the view is also, many companies are mature where the BUs have a very strong understanding in terms of what they want to do, right? And any program you create has to have very tangible benefits to the sales organization, to the business organization, and commitment from them. Once they have that, then you're able to link the needs of the startups with your business unit. If you run it independent of alignment with any of the organization, the issues what Abhishek comes in, starts coming.
So what I would just to conclude,
this is the responsibility of the corporate startup. When it goes to an accelerator, he doesn't know if this is resolved in the back or not.
Correct. It is a corporate responsibility.
But I think
just to
the
conclude
issues
that the innovation department, sorry, just to conclude that the innovation department, if it does not directly report to the CEO, and there is no strong mandate from the CEO to actually go ahead and run an innovation program, it will not succeed. Two, the guy who's running this innovation program has to be strong enough to kind of get the business together. And three, there has to be a champion model between the startups and the corporate to take this through. Otherwise, you will end up killing startups.
So just add up one thing. If every important initiative to report to the CEO, a company like Walmart will be 1,000 reports to the CEO, right? I understand the point. It has to report high level. It's pretty important priority.
When I say CEO, means
key
CEO office, which has the key responsibility of.
So it's an important priority for the company.
Yeah. So I think Abhishek is definitely talking from his own personal experience, right? So, but if you look at the accelerators that are actually in business today, be it Microsoft, Cisco, or us, for example, or even Oracle, I mean, these programs were announced by the CEO himself, right? I mean, they actually.
So it is a priority.
There is a mandate. Even our CEO announced our program, and even so, when we announced it, we thought through in the sense that how do you actually design an alliance program for the startups? How do you onboard them so that on the day one they are on board, they have everything set for them, right? Or what kind of cohort space you have. For example, we onboarded an alliance partner from. It took like less than 48 hours to do that. So. It's about how you do that, and you need to have synergy between various departments.
Tune the processes of the company to drive. There was one question here.
So just to give food for thought, just go and analyze the companies that have come out of Cisco, Intel, and another that you named, Oracle, and you will realize what I'm saying. It's not from personal experience. Microsoft is probably the only one that I respect in this. They've done it very well.
I thought you were talking about Times Internet.
Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
What are the things you look for in an early stage startup without traction? See, like you look for domain expertise, he might look for full-time commitment. So, like, what are the things you look for in early stage startup?
Yeah, go ahead, Miten.
So I think every accelerator has their own metrics, as Amir mentioned. I can share with you what we look for. We want to fundamentally see how well you understand the problem. So what business problem are you solving? For whom are you solving? How are you solving? How is it differentiated in the marketplace? The value proposition, is that sticky with the users? And is there a user buy-in? Even if it is a very, very early level, at a idea level, and if you have been able to go out and run by that with actual users, and whether they will be ready to go out and pay for it, even at a very macro level, at least some sense in terms of what it is. I think that to us is a good idea validation, because that's where we come in, that you have an idea which is there, which is fully validated, and then we go out and work in the MVP side, where we go out and say, okay, now let's go out, build in a POC, and then get that validated. So that's the phase we operate in.
Okay, Rekha, what about you?
Yeah, I think I would just compliment what he said, and these are the best practices at every accelerator. I think the 4 or 5 basic things that any accelerator looks at: the idea, where is the innovation? Is there an innovation? And you do the competitive analysis to see what's in the market today. And so if you are doing something which is better than the market, because ultimately even if you are a startup, there are giants sitting outside, and they are always really on the edge of doing something better. So tomorrow you are going to compete with them. So if you have something which is better than them, and you've done your competitive analysis, then you know that you are building something over and above what's already available. I think the second term for me would be always the team. If you have a good drivers in the team who will take the idea from maybe from its really early stage and nurture it and develop it to the end. So that would be the second thing to look at. And of course then it would be more of how scalable it is. Today you start at India, tomorrow can you just replicate this to any other geographical area. So these are the few things that we look at when we take the startups at Empire.
Any other question? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. My question to the accelerators is around the other pillar in spearheading innovation in any country, which is the government. So did any of your accelerator programs receive government funding or government support in any way? If possible, you could share that with us. And I'd like to hear maybe 1 or 2 sort of key messages on how best governments and economic development boards could work with accelerators to support them, basically, and support
Amir,
their programs.
maybe you can start with give an Israel view, and its model that's evolved there, and then go from...
Yeah, so the model in Israel is that the accelerators themselves do not get help from the government. The incubators do get help from the government. It's a very significant help. There are 18 incubators in Israel, which is a small number relative to the number of accelerators. Each one of them is doing about 5 projects every year, and the entire project, 85% of the project is financed by the government, and 15%. Now the government suffer, if the project fails, the government lose the money. And if the project is successful, the shares that belong to the government are going to the corporate VC or a multinational corporation that owns the incubator. Now, other than that, if you go to an accelerator, there are other government support, not to the accelerator, but to the innovation. So if you develop an innovative technology, you can get support from the government, up to 50% of the amount invested in R&D.
Great. Rekha, about Dubai?
Yeah, so here in Dubai, Empire is also part of government, maybe not the direct government, but semi-government. So this is where our grants come from. So we run the accelerator, or I wouldn't call it an accelerator because it is not time bound. So we do not fund the accelerators, but we give them an access to the investment. But I was just maybe highlighting the government program, which is Dubai Future Accelerator. So there we have about 14 to 15 government organizations, and they have a cohort which is for 4 months each. They are running the 3rd cohort now. And so the challenges come from the government department. So that could be, something like from Dubai Police, which will be, giving very broad line of a challenge as to, how can they bring the, criminal cases down. It could be a challenge from, roads and transportation authorities to say that how can we, bring 10x carbon emission down, or how can we, stop the road congestion on the road. So these are the government departments. They throw the challenges, And of course, the funding comes, it's all paid program. So if someone, has a solution towards these challenges, then they apply. Of course, the applications are huge, humongous. I think in the first cohort, they received about 2,200 applications. After that, they went through the filtration program, and about each of the government took 4 or 5 the solutions which who were hosted within the space, and they were given the time to sit with the government department to come up with the prototype. And after 4 months, if they really were able to give a solution which government could work on, they get straight away a contract from the government. So this has been one of the great program. Yeah.
That's really good. And the last question, yeah, go ahead.
So even with, India also has a program which is Atal Incubation Mission, where there are 10 incubators get 10 crore, $1.5 million for the next 5 years to run this program. And there are a bunch of other programs in India which the government is supporting incubation with universities and private incubators.
And CSR funds as well.
Yes, CSR funds as well. So there is an Indian startup website that, I don't know, India Startup, or what is that website?
Startup India.
Startup India website, where you will get all the information about government grants and funds given to incubators and accelerators. And there is a private-public accelerator partnership as well.
Yeah, last question, yeah.
Yeah, I'm Krishna from Schneider and Astor Capital. So one leg in Schneider Electric, the other leg in Astor Capital. A lively discussion about corporate accelerators and what are the pros and cons from you guys, right? And Amir touched up on, if you have a VC hosted accelerator.
Hey, my job is to summarize.
Accelerator, and then VC doesn't happen to invest in the company, early stage company, is a disaster, right? So a further thought on VC hosted accelerator. So I'm just trying to make a choice between, I want to build an accelerator powered by Schneider or powered by Astor Capital. Which do you think is better? So
I do not know these accelerators, so I don't know how to answer this question. But in general, you have to see what this accelerator offered to you and what will happen if the goals will not meet. So if the goals do not meet, then you don't want to be in a situation that you have to close your startup. You need to be able to take whatever you achieved during the acceleration period in order to go elsewhere, right?
correct. Yeah, my question was more from actually running an accelerator. So I'm not a startup guy who wants to go to an accelerator.
Okay.
I'm talking about
Corporate accelerator is better than a VC accelerator, because VC accelerator, the startup doesn't get money, then they won't get money.
So those are the two perspectives.
Yeah.
A bit more thought process.
Yeah, so maybe after this discussion, we have probably a minute. So each of you maybe go through and just tell, what are you looking for the next set of startups to come in? Maybe Abhishek, you can start. What are the top companies you're looking for to have them in your accelerator? Yeah, who can make you money? Yeah, if that's the goal.
So we are looking, right now we are very consumer focused. We are looking at startups in, apart from deep tech, which we will do B2B as well. We're looking at fintech, edtech, utilities, toothbrush use cases.
Anything
gaming.
left out?
Almost a lot of things are left out. We'll not fund e-commerce. We'll not do ops kind of startups.
Okay, you can say that. Okay, only these two you will leave.
No, there are a lot. Healthcare has been left out. What else? Food tech has been left out. So I can start counting. There are like 20, 25
Yeah,
things.
Ajeya, now, what are you looking at?
No, I mean, we are looking to help startups that are actually looking at, definitely in the enterprise space, definitely in B2B. We don't look at B2C at all. We're looking at startups who believe in an operating model where the selling price is more than the cost price. So definitely those kind of startups.
So B2B in the infrastructure, or B2B in the apps as well?
No. We are definitely looking at the infrastructure space, which can also have app integrations into AI and ML applications.
Okay, great.
So from my perspective, and this is about something we talk quite often in Dubai, and this comes also as the word from our ruler over there. He's absolutely innovation freak, and he says that if you don't innovate, then you die. As a person, as an organization, so anything that is done manually today is a challenge, and that you should just change it into really doing digitally. And that's what we would expect.
Automation and digital transformation is a big focus area. Okay, what about you, Miten?
healthcare and fintech with underlying blockchain or AI/ML. That would be our focus area next 12 to 18 months.
And the Indian startups can apply to your Silicon Valley.
Yeah, except for the fact that, just so that I can answer and also clarify, our personal belief is you should be as close as possible to your customer. So if your market is here, if your customer is here, we personally believe
Will you arrange for a visa?
Yeah, we do. Actually.
You do arrange?
Yeah. In the sense we help you in terms of applying, but not in terms of any other.
Okay.
Yeah, applying, yes, absolutely. So that's a great question. We do actually offer a 1-month immersion program where if you're closer to your customer, let's say in Bangalore, but you want to be part of Silicon Valley ecosystem, let's say you want to connect with the NetApp or Cisco or Microsoft or Facebook or Google of the world, we give you 1-month immersion in Valley. And the rest of the 3 months you could actually work from NASSCOM warehouse over here. If there's any NASSCOM guys, we run this program jointly with them.
Okay, great, thanks.
Well, we are domain agnostic. We are looking for companies that will be unique and with significant barriers to entry, especially from this technology side. So we're looking for deep technologies and any field. Of course, they must be highly innovative.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, and all the panelists are available for questions. Any questions offline, at least for the next few minutes. And I'm happy that I avoided a fist fight between Ajeya and Abhishek. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.